So we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes, okay? So let's begin. So our first presenter will speak on SFL and multimodality.
Yes.
And you may start.
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline, Nechin. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ngọc. You can call me. Yes, I'm Ngọc, and I'm from Hải Phòng University of Medicine and Pharmacy. It's my honor to share my small research with the title Multimodality Score Analysis of Visual Images in Medical Textbook, the study of theme and information structure. So could you hear my voice nice?
Yes, we can hear you. Can everyone hear?
Thank you. And I'd like to talk about introduction, figure out some information about theoretical background. Then I'm going to share some main findings and conclude my presentation with recommendation. And you know that let's have a look at introduction. Textbooks seems to be a fundamental brain materials needed in a language curriculum. Textbooks are essential materials that can bring learner success or failure, and it is the main aspect of teaching material in enhancing the students' knowledge. And it contains the material that is crucial for the students. The textbook gives a big influence as a material for teaching and learning. Then the content of the textbooks affects the student significantly. Moreover, a textbook, you know, that has a curriculum of teaching material, and it may be an expression of attitudes and values that do not influence the content and images of teaching material. Moreover, the academic environment for foreign language learning should concern about the visual non-verbal aspect of the published material in the textbook more carefully if they use as the instructional tools in teaching and learning. Thus, the suitable visual element in the textbook participate in a fundamental role to motivate and increase students' attention and awareness. So it also affects the readability of the text presented to them. And you know that in the teaching and learning process, visual image play a very important role in supporting the effectiveness of teaching material. Then the visual image representations in the textbook are common in teaching and learning materials. Then they are widely used in the literature in teaching as a foreign language. In medical education, in my cases, visual images are considered as a resource of teaching and learning materials related to the medicines, bring many positive impacts for the student. And in my cases, my students always have a curiosity to explore the surroundings in the world by interpreting the meaning of what they see and read in the medical lesson. Then the teachers use the textbook as an instructional device in academic environment. Then it is very important to use the appropriate visual design of the textbook to increase my students' motivation, concentration, and awareness. You know that visual images in textbook can stimulate the students' interest and encourage them to learn a language in more critical and creative way. According to the Crest and Valuance, the visual images, like language, fulfill the meta functions of the representation of the experiential world. The representation meaning and the interactions between the participants are represented in the visual design and its viewers interactive meaning, and the compositional arrangements of visual resources compositional meaning. So I think that there is a lack of research on multimodal discord analysis in visual images of my cases in medical textbook in relation to their function and their characteristics. Therefore, in the light of this issue, I am interested in conducting multimodal discord analysis in the study of English medical textbook concerning their role as well as their appropriateness for educational purpose. And my study aims to investigate three meta-functions of 15 visual images from three medical textbooks according to the analytical framework by Kress and Van Leeuwen's textbook. And the research of my study, the research questions are formulated below. What is the occurrences, frequencies of visual images in the medical textbook? And what are the basic contents of the meta-functions of the visual images in English medical textbook? So first, let's move to the theoretical background. This study will adopt the theories of visual images proposed by Kress and Van Leeuwen's 2006 in their book, Reading Images, Grammars of Visual Designs. In their grammar of visual designs developed for the analysis of images, Kress and Van Leeuwen distinguish between three different types of meaning, also called the meta-function, namely representational, interactive, and compositional. To start with, the representational meta-function upside include the three main elements: processes, participants, and circumstance. First, the process encompasses both narratives and conceptual process. Indeed, the narrative process tends to occur in images which a given action between best known as the vectors, while the conceptual process is more likely to be found in images which lack action. On the other hand, the interactive meta-functions includes the different elements: the images, act and gaze, size of frame and social distance, perspective and modality. And finally, the compositional meta-functions comprise the three main elements: information value, silence, and framing. Information values is concerning with the placement of the element in the given meaning, and silence refer to the analysis of the element which mostly attract the attention of the reader. These may be deduced from colors, the size of the elements, and their position in relation to the background and foreground. And framing refer to whether the elements found in pictures are put together or celebrated. The next, I would like to share the methodology and with the desire to explore the visual images in medical textbook from the multimodal discourse analysis perspective, clarify the role of the visual images in making meanings medical textbook. I conduct descriptive research with the visual images from the three medical textbook, and all of these textbooks are currently used in medical teaching and learning in my university. And I am working as a lecturer in Hải Phòng University of Medicine and Pharmacy in Vietnam. And the researcher used the documentary techniques to obtain the data of this study. I choose the textbook taking the visual image, identify the types of images in the medical textbook. And I describe the meaning-making process is of different semantic modes that constitute each images, both linguistic and para-linguistic. And the data were qualitatively analyzed to arrive the occurrence frequency of these correlation between the modes. And in order to find out the characteristics of the visual images in multimodal discourse analysis of English medical textbook, I randomly collected 15 images in 3 textbooks for analyzing according to the framework of the grammar of visual design from the crest and valuance with the qualitative analysis. And all of these images I take from 3 medical textbooks I am using for my teaching and learning in my university. As the next, similarity attempts to cast the light on how the employment of these semantic modes contribute to the construction of meaning. These will be discussed in some main findings. Firstly, the analysis of occurrence frequency distributions of the images in the 3 medical textbooks show that 40% of images concerned with the body locations and systems that are related to the anatomy illustration, especially in the lessons of medical terminology. 32% of the visual images used to illustrate the health disorder and condition, especially the disease and system. And the smaller amount of the occurrent frequency are diagnosis and therapy and demographic group, including men, women, children, adult populations and group. And the images of the wellness account for only 4% with information of fitness and exercise. And secondly, the research dealing with the representational metafunctions, interactive metafunctions, and compositional metafunction. The first is representative metafunction. A look at the images put under spirited indicate that they all include the represented participant. So the figure shows only incorporates only one represented participant displayed as a body anatomy that show the thoracic cavity. It is divided into 2 smaller cavities. So in that regard, the one represented participant plays the role of actor. Relatively crest and valuance argue that when the given images encompasses only one represented participant, this participant is considered as an actor. In fact, it seems timely to assume that the represented participant in the images in addressing the audience by means of gaze, and such as some assumptions lends further support to the crest and valuance idea that the represented participant in the image under securities in the actors. And as the crest and valuance note, color is conveyed at the combinatory system with the 5 elementary abstract color. In the figure here, you can see from the division of the thoracic cavity, the visual images of the divisions of thoracic cavities used a different color for the plurally cavities and mediastinum, and to represent the real world, the body here and the elements, and distinguish the different parts of the thoracic cavity while creating the topical unity and coherence. So the next one is the compositional metafunction. The informative values the silence and the framing refer to the degree of the connection that exists between the different elements that form the composition. So the more these elements are connected to each other, the more likely they are to convey the same information. It seems plausible to assume that the different types of information represented in these figures are included within separate times and the separate frames. They all seem to convey the same thing, meaning as the distance between the frames is not significant. Third, all the elements included in the images revolve around one main issue, which is interval views of the heart, illustrating the heart chambers, heart layers, and major blood vessels associated with the heart. And the silence and framing are the main principle of information values in images. Silence can be realized through the size, the color construct, the movement, and anything that distinguishes a word from others. Ideas are expressed by means of agency and the color. So they are expressed in the cardiology text by the degree of difference between the pictures. And the color is the mode of representation, which is organized in the heart layer images through the splices with a high color saturation. Especially in the figure 3 here, you can see it is brighter and more illuminated. So the high color saturation in this figure reveal the accumulations of on the both sides, which represents 4 chambers.
You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And the last one is the interactive metal function. So figure 4, that shows the leukapheresis. The machine is an automated blood cells separators that remove large numbers of white blood cells and return red cells, platelet and plasma to the patient. So you can see from this figure, the image, act, and gaze constitute the first elements of the interactive metal function in Crest and Van Leeuwen's visual grammar framework. In fact, the presence and action of the gaze is said to determine whether the image fulfills the idea of the demand or offer. So this figure 4 incorporates the visual elements of gaze, such as the represented participant appears to aiming at the conveying the given image's message by means of her gaze, and perspective refers to the angle selected by the designer of the image to convey a given meaning. As you can see in the figure, the adoption of the frontal angle is not random. It is aimed at making the audience involved with the represented participant. And now I will spread some conclusion from my study. Firstly, the rate of occurrence of visual images in 3 English medical textbooks is not the same depending the content of the lesson. Secondly, the meaning of the images conveys an objective and impersonal connection between the images and viewer to substitute their thought and reflection. And now for my conclusions, I have some recommendation. Firstly, we should, I think that it is necessary to collaborate with other researchers to find more different interpretation of the visual images in English medical textbook. Additionally, that is very important to employ the function of the visual images, whether as informative, illustrative, or decorative information. Moreover, the participants' interpretation and the system function reveal the processes underlying the construction of conceptual and linguistic between the knowledge of themes and information value. Therefore, it is very important to use the appropriate visual design, the textbook, in order to increase my student motivation, concentrate, and awareness. Then thank you so much for your attention, and I'd like to get more comment and more support for my study. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So it was very interesting. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
So can you see?
We can see you. I can't see any questions.
Yes,
any comments? Anybody want to say something to our speaker? So I just say that your work on understanding the multimodality in textbooks is quite important, because students who know English and students who don't know English need
Yes.
extra support for this academic content, which is very demanding. So I think, you know, to better understand what authors are doing when they have pictures in their textbooks is quite important. And my daughter came from Ukraine, my stepdaughter, when she was 13, and she had never seen a textbook with pictures in it.
Yes.
The textbooks were just writing, you know, just whatever
Yes.
content in writing, and that was it. She said, my
Yes.
goodness, the textbooks are so heavy, the textbooks, you know, all these
Yes.
pictures.
Right. I agree with you that in my cases, in my study here, the visual image is very important, because my students use the textbook almost their time. They use their pictures not only from the textbook but also from the Google they search from for their lesson. Now, however, in my case study, my students always show their curiosity to explore their surroundings in the world by interpreting the meanings of what they see and what they read in the medical lesson. That is the reason why I often use the textbook with the visual imagery, so that they can understand what the visual show from the function, and I think that it can help them to improve their concentration and their awareness. I think that in my university, based on the medical pictures from the textbook, they can understand how the visual image present in the textbook. And it also used other, because they have a lot of difficulties in find the way they understand the meaning of the textbook. I think that the academic environment of the teaching and learning should concern about the visual, the non-verbal aspect of the public materials in the textbook. So the suitable visual element in the textbook participate a very important role to motivate and increase the student attention and awareness. And also it can affect the readabilities of the text presented them. And there is a lack of the researches in multimodal discourse analysis in visual image, especially in medical textbook. That is the reason why I just do a very small research basing on my lesson day by day in my university right now.
Right, very good. Thank you. Yes, it's quite important.
That is not easy for me, but I try my best in order to show the pictures to my students. Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Can't see anybody with their hand raised. Khan?
Yep. So hi Charlene and hi Hi, Miss Ngọc. Actually, that's a very interesting presentation, and that you show that you use the visual image framework from Benjamin and also from Van Leeuwen in order to analyze the photos and the visuals images from the textbook. So, as you also mentioned in your comments earlier, so I'm very interested in, so can you see any like the relationship between the image and I think that the presenter is gone, right?
The presentation.
Yeah, I don't see her anymore.
Where did she go?
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm sorry we didn't get an answer to your question. Oh, there she's coming back. She might have lost.
Yeah, she's coming back.
She might have lost power.
Yeah.
Or something, connection.
Yeah, okay. She's coming back.
I
don't know whether she can hear us or not.
Can you hear us?
Sorry, there is something trouble with my application. So could you see me?
We can see your presentation.
So could you hear my voice?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
So Con had a question.
Could you see my slide? Could you see my slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I have to take my study.
You can stop sharing and then we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'll come back.
Yeah, you are back. Like Jacqueline and I was curious, like where were you?
Sorry. Yeah. How I disappeared for 2 minutes. So sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, you know that I'm curious about the intersemiotic relationship between the images and also the text in the book, I don't know whether they use the images like kind of as a complementary to the text, to the reading text, or kind of like providing more information, or kind of like constructing the information in the text. So I'm kind of curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, thank you so much for your comment, Mr. Khánh Bùi. Yes, and in my cases, we give a lot of medical lesson for my student because I'm just English lecturer in my university. I'm not the clinical lecturer in my university. So that in my teaching job nowadays, I just give the lesson for the student, both the basic English and the medical English. And then in my lesson, I use the medical visual images in all my lessons. So they use the lesson for both the text and the Google, the computers, because when we use the online system, they also have to base on the textbook. And I think that in any times of my teaching job, they always use their textbook. Yes. So that is the reason why I want to concentrate on the images in the textbooks.
Yeah, I mean about the text, the reading text.
Yes.
I mean the reading text, the content of the reading text, and then the meaning of the images. So okay, are they kind of like complementary to each other's?
Yes.
They kind of like
Yeah, they combine together both the context and both the reading. Yes.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other comments? So can we all thank No for her presentation and her informative view on the textbooks and visual images. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your comment. And I just gave my email for in the
chat.
Live. Yes, and it's my pleasure to get more comment and more support, because this is the first time I take part in the first international online system functional linguistic interest group conference. So I think that from this group conference, I will have more connections, both Mr. Khánh Bui and many others experts, many other specialists, because I think that it is very difficult for me. I just think I will try my best in order to do a small research in my cases, because I want to focus only the text, only the images, because I think that my students find that is not easy for them to understand the meaning of the visual images in the textbook. So if they found the way in order to interpret them, they will know more about the meaning of the lesson that I gave them every day. And thank you so much for your comment, for support from the group conference.
Thank you. We hope you'll come back another time. I don't know if there are going to be more of these. This is the first of its kind. But
Yes.
in any case, there are certainly more systemic functional linguistics conferences. Yes. So we hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Yes, welcome. And I'm sure I will come back in any other group conference that you gave me. That is my honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're ready for Khan and Ruth. If you would like to share your screen, and not if you would like to stop sharing yours, so we can put the new presentation up.
Yes. So the next presentation is from Mr. Khánh Bui.
Yes.
Welcome.
Okay, so our next presentation is, sorry, I have the screen down. Our next presentation is by Khan Bui and Ruth Harmon from Georgia, I believe, right? The Systemic Functional Multimodal Discourse Analysis, Multimodal Composing and Civic Agency of Multilingual Youth. So Khan, are you here? And Ruth, are you here? Khan,
Yes, I'm here. I'm here, Jacqueline. Yeah. So
anytime
can you start?
You
Yeah.
may start.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, everyone. So thank you, Young, for joining this session this morning. And okay, I was really actually I was very interested in the first presentation by Miss Ngọc here. Very interesting. So somehow related to my study as well. So the title of my study is Systemic Functional Multimodal Discourse Analysis and Multimodal Composing and Civic Agencies of Multilingual Youth. So my name is Ikan, and I'm currently a PhD candidate at University of Georgia in TESOL and World Language Education. And my research interests are also multimodal discourse analysis and also systemic functional multimodal discourse analysis and also disciplinary knowledge. And my dissertation actually is about analyzing the multimodal discourses, the multi-semiotic discourses in a math classroom for high school students. So that is my research interest. And for this presentation, I'm working with my advisor, Dr. Ruth Harmon, and I'm sorry that she's not here today with us. So I will be presenting this presentation on her behalf as well. Yeah. So that's on the session today. So first I will talk a bit about background of study. Then I will move on to talk about the SFMDA, that means Systemic Functional Multimodal Discourse Analysis. And then I will talk more about my research context, the findings, and also the implication as well. So move on to the background of studies. As you can see that recently there the emphasis on multimodality for multilingual learners to support their problem solving and also inquiry learning, and also their multilingual meaning making and disciplinary knowledge generations. You can see that in the new standards like they also emphasize on the how to support multilingual learners and how English learners can make meaning in disciplinary knowledge. For example, how they can make meaning in mathematical classes or also in science as well. And the second one is the critical multimodal pedagogies here, center youth knowledge and positioning them as leaders in civic engagement project. Yeah, but that actually what actually that arouse our interest is by which the multilingual learners can make meaning using multi-semiotic resources. That means how they can use different semiotic resources here in order to make meanings. So multi-semiotic resources here, we refer to, for example, gestures, body embodiment, body movement, body postures, or also visual displays, also artifacts here, and how they can, or even their first language as well. So, and how they can use those kind of resources to make meaning and different meaning potentials from different semiotic resources here. So before we go on, let me tell you a little bit about our program. So we call it like Youth Civic Engagement Program. So as you can see here, there are 5 modules in the programs. So the first one is storytelling. So at first the student actually, like when they join the program, they will tell a story about the school. That means what they like, what they don't like about the school, and then what with some kind of improvement that they need in order to make the school better. And after that, we move on to the second stage, like where the student need to go out the school, and then they need to go around the school, and they will survey the school with the help, with the support of urban learner, with the urban designer. The reason why we have the urban designer here to help to support the students so that they can deepen their disciplinary knowledge about the field. For example, they can know about the school around them. So what they need to look at when they survey around the school. And after they survey the school, we come to the next phase where the student building blocks. Building blocks here, that means like after they survey the school, they see that what they need to improve their school, and then they will work together in their groups in order to build their ideal school using like blocks, using like wooden blocks in order to build their ideal school. And then we come to the next phase, that is phase number 4, artifact making. So the student, from the ideal school, the student will pick one thing that they really like in order to build an artifact. So they use different like resources like more paper or color paper or rayons in order to build one artifact, one 3D model, one thing that we like as one of their favorite items. And finally, so we conducted the legislative theater where the student performs in front of the principals or in front of the school authority to talk about their project, to talk about their ideal school and what they want to build. So that's the whole program that we designed for them. Yeah. So as you can see that from the whole program, you can see there are a lot of semiotic resources that the student use here, or different modes that the student use here. Modes here, we define modes as tools of meaning making for the student at a channel of meaning making from the student. So you can see the first one, the student use storytelling, and then they move on, they survey the school. That means they need to draw a map of the school. They need to use different shapes, different figures, and also, well, in phase number 3, building blocks here, so they use different wooden blocks with different shapes. For example, they can use rectangular shapes, or they can use like squares shapes in order to build the ideal school. And then as phase number 4, you can see for artifact making, so they use color paper, they use crayon here in order to build the artifact. And finally, so that's they need to perform, so they need to use the gestures, they need to use their body in order to perform in front of the principal. So you can see that that's it, they use different modes, yeah, when joining the project. So that's the reason why, because we see that there are a lot of modes that the students use. So that's the reason why for this study, we can see that how multi-semiotic resources and or how multimodality can support youth in enhancing their civic engagement, in proposing their voice in front of the principals, in front of the authority of school. The theoretical framework for our studies, we call it culturally sustaining SFL process. So for this one, there are the three key tenets in our theoretical framework. So the first one is a multimodality. As you can see here, bilingual learners and their adult partners use and critically analyze multiple modes in building new visions for their communities. So as I explained earlier, so you can see that the students, the youth and the youth are kind of working with us as researchers in order to analyze their school and in order to see that what they should improve in their school, and also that they use multiple modes in building a new school. The second thing is a mode continuum. As you can see that, let me go back here. As you can see that our designs here, so we intentionally intentionally build up the program here as a mode continuum. So you can see that at first it's go from storytelling, and then I'm sorry, my Siri is talking. So you can see here they go from storytelling, and then they go to survey the school, and then you can see building blocks, and then artifact making, and then finally they perform. So this is a mode continuum here. The student go from something very general to something more specific to form their argument. The second, the last thing, as you can see from our theoretical framework, is the critical genre pedagogies here. So that means that youth need to make arguments in front of the principal. So as we say here, bilingual learners are apprenticed into using exploratory genres. For example, that's the argumentation, reporting, and explaining for their own social and political purposes. So that means that they need to form, through the program, we help them to form the arguments so that they can make their own arguments in front of the principals. Yeah. And the methodological framework for the study and also the focus of this presentation today is the systemic functional multimodal discourse analysis. So we use the methodological framework in order to analyze the meanings of how youth can make meaning through different semiotic resources here. The reason why we use systemic functional multimodal discourse analysis, because as you can see that when you read the text, so there are also different, there are also three level meanings of text by Halliday, and also that we realize that for different modes, they also have different layers of meaning as well, meaning potential as well, but they just expanded to mode. So that's why that we adopt the framework from O'Halloran and also Lim 2011. So it's just like expansions of systemic functional, this is an expansion of systemic functional linguistics by Halliday. So we apply the systemic functional linguistics from Halliday to analyze the meaning of different modes, and that's how systemic functional multimodal discourse analysis here. So as you can see here, so the same with systemic functional linguistics, we have the meaning potentials of semiotic resources into three distinct register variables here. As in systemic functional linguistics by Halliday. So you can see that for modes, they also have three distinct register variables here. The first one is ideational meaning. So ideational meaning here, including like experiential meaning. Yeah, that's we talk about the experiential meaning. For example, let me take one example. As you can see, when I show these fingers in the math classroom, so that's mean number one, for example. So this one is number two, this one is number three. So that's we call the representational meaning here, or ideational meaning here. So it's carry the meaning. And also that the second one is a logical meaning. So that's mean that the constructions of logical relations, that's in the word, that's mean the arrangement of the tool here, the arrangement of different modes here. And the last thing, the next thing we talk about is interpersonal meaning. So that we talk about the enactment of relationship and relative stand. That means we talk about the relationship between the modes and also the audience as well, how the audience perceive the mode. For example, as the way I'm talking to you here, for example. So for example, if as you can see, even this is a Zoom environment, but if I lean my face forward here, that means that I'm very interested in the conversation and I want to learn more, right? But for this one, I move it back a little bit, so you can see that I a little bit relaxed and I far away from the audience via Zoom. So let's talk more about the interpersonal meaning here. And the next thing is about textual meaning. That means the organization of the text and the configurations of the modes here. And that's it, the three distinct branches of variables that we look at. So the different meaning of a mode. But we also, as you can see, that when the youth, they design their projects, so you can see that there are different modes in one phase. So that's why that we also interested and curious in the inter-semiotic expansion of meaning among the semiotic resources. So that means that, for example, how the diagram and the text, they complement the meaning to each other. And also, like, for example, if the kids, they use the gestures while they presenting their artifacts, so how the gestures can support the meaning of the artifacts. So we also kind of interested in the inter-semiotic relationship that is one. So that's why we also incorporate the inter-semiotic complementarity of modes proposed by Royce here. That leads us to our research questions here. So how does SFMDA support us in exploring the multimodal repertoires of youth participants? And the second one is, how did youth members communicate their burning insight multimodally? So I will show you the findings from the research so that you can see that. Talking about our data collection. So as you can see that, because I'm sorry, because in order to see that how kids make meaning, and also that's a 15-week project, so we use social semiotic ethnographic methods so that we can work with the kids, we can learn more about the youth, and also that we work with youth, and then we can learn more about youth, and then we can see that how they can make meaning as well. And also that we collect the data, so we use videos a lot, because that in order to see that how they can use different modes, so we use a video. So that's why we use 4 cameras in the classroom so that we can capture on the images, and also we have 10 audio recorders for each table so that we can caption the student discussion as well. As you can see here, so our data collection includes 12 weeks of 3-hour video and audio recording each week. We also have few notes and photograph and physical artifacts developed by youth and adult participants. For data analysis, so you can see that we use we adopt a semiotic unit here. So that means we look at the frame, we look at the video, and we look at each frame. And then for each frame, so we kind of like identify the meaning that youth make through each frame. And then when the frame move on to another meaning, so that's why that we cut it to another frame. So we go frame by frame. Yeah. So that's why we call semiotic unit here.
You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. So let me show you some demonstration for the analysis here. So for example, that's it from Lucia. So you can see that that's it, the phase where the kids build their artifact and they kind of like presenting their artifact. So you can see here, Lucia used her gestures in order to present her artifact as well. So if you look at one frame here, so you can see that the kids, the youth here, Lucia here, use I'm sorry, I cannot put it on one slide, but you can see that she used 3 modes here. So speech, body postures, and also gestures here. So you can see for the first one, she said, this is the model for today. So you can see that from the ideational meaning here. So through identify process here, this is and concrete participants. So that's the model. So explained. So you can see that. Look at this is the model for today. So look at the analysis here. So you can see this is, and they talk about the concrete participants here. That's the model. So they explain the purpose and content of the talk here. So that's the first graph you can see. And how about her body postures? So you can see that she's in a sitting position, she's leaning backwards. The reason why she's leaning backwards here, because you can see that she wants to have the interaction with the viewers. She wants to have the interaction with the cameraman and thing. So that's in her body posture to explain, to engage there in the explanations of the school. And also her gesture, you can see that her right hand raised with the extended arm, palm facing outward. So that she want to introduce the overall configuration of blocks here. And if you look at this one, the entire layout of the building. So that's what I'm looking at from Tasho's organizational here. So you can see the spatial layout of the ideal school. So that's it from configuration of good blocks here. So if you look at this one is the second example I want to show you. That is a kind of one of the student in the group. So he tried to talk to other people about the program. So you can see that I'm sorry, I don't know whether I have enough time to show the video, but let me show a little bit of the video for you to see.
It's just nonsense and we're crazy, but trust me, at the end you're just gonna feel really comfortable with the people you're hanging out with, and that's something you really want to have, because you know you really want to feel comfortable around your friends, and you know it's gonna be really great, trust me. And entonces en español, yo vine hace 3 años y me gustó mucho venir aquí porque fue un
Yeah, you can see the reason why I want to show you this video, because you can see the kids here, they use like kind of different semiotic resources here. So the body, the spatials here, the space, that means that his position, and also that the way he look at the audience, and also the way that he use different languages here. So he use first language and also English as well. So yeah, you can see here for the speech here. So you can see that at first, kind of like at first thing, you can see that he kind of like, when he used English, he just kind of looking at a particular group of people. But when we realize that when he used Spanish here, so that he can, he look more confident, and then he move more, and then he kind of have more interaction with the audience. So that's how a first language can support him. I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of time to show you this one. So you can see that, so what can we learn from SFMDA? So you can see that SFMDA can be used to investigate participant gestures, and also like gestures and also visual images here. So they can talk about they can use to identify the meaning potential of space in the classroom as well. So as you can see in the second example, we learn about the space to see that how the student can communicate with the group of people. Yeah. And for example, from the study of this one, so we kind of like develop interactive materials that can support greater iterations of semiotic resources among the learners here. But there are also a lot of some limitation here. So it's just like 15-week program. So actually that if we have time, if we had more time, we would love to follow the kids more, you know, so that we can know more about their expansions of meaning. Yeah, because that's the evidence of learning. So we want to see that after the program, like how they can use the knowledge from the program in order to expand further their knowledge. Yeah, so that's are the some of the preferences that we have here, and thank you for your listening. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Khan. Very interesting. I really like seeing the clip, so I wish we have a little more time. We have 7 minutes. Does anybody have any questions or comments that you would like to share with Khan? Anybody? So I thought it was interesting that his body language changed dramatically, really, when he started speaking Spanish. That's very interesting. Not, of course, unexpected, I guess, you know, but just actually seeing it in action is pretty stunning, you know.
Mhm.
So I think we need to, for equity,
Mhm.
students have to be able to present in ways that they are comfortable. So being able to, at least in part, use their native tongue,
Mhm.
their first language,
Yeah.
you know, can make a difference. Of course, they're supposed to be learning English, but using some Spanish is
Yeah.
certainly not controversial for most people. I mean, there are people who think that's, you know,
Yeah.
controversial, but I think that was really a good demonstration of why it shouldn't be controversial,
Yeah.
and why people should be permitted to use their first language at times, you
Yeah.
know, when needed.
Yeah.
It's good. Um,
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. You know, like using first language in the classroom is kind of controversial, and a lot of schools like they still have like English only policy, so that they kind of like you know that so they kind of limit the way that kids express themselves, and also that you know that in the study actually that we wrote it in the we wrote it in the manuscripts, like we also analyzed, you know, the speech in Spanish. So we use SFL in order to analyze the speech in Spanish, and then we also saw that you know, he used a lot of appraisal and in Spanish, and you know the circumstances of participant, the processes in Spanish is also more complicated in English. So that means that he incorporate more meaning to Spanish rather than the English here. Yeah.
yeah, this, you know, presents some interesting questions about how to increase their English capacity while
Yeah.
still using Spanish or whatever the native language is. So, you know, it does present some interesting problems in the classroom. And of course, one of the issues is that on Long Island, where I live, only 70% of the students are Spanish speakers.
Uh-huh.
So that means there are 30% who are speaking something else.
Yeah.
So unless you're in a completely bilingual situation, you know, you have to use native language carefully, because if we have 7 Spanish speakers in the room and 3 non-Spanish speakers, we can't just use Spanish. You know.
Yeah, I agree. So that's still kind of controversial, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the comments here. It would be very interesting to apply this on the Arabic English speaking students. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have yeah, I think Ngọc, you want to say something?
No, I was just waiting to see if there were any more comments or questions.
I think Ngọc, she raised her hand. Yeah.
We can't hear.
Oh, I cannot hear her.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. Yeah, I draw presentation. You cannot hear.
Now we can hear you.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes, now we
Now,
can.
Yes or no? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. All right. And I am very impressed by your presentation.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
We've lost you again. No.
Very interesting intro.
Maybe put it in the chat, Knock. We can't hear you. Can you try to put the question in the or comment in chat for a minute?
Oh,
That has
she
not worked out.
she's gone.
Yeah, we've had a few technology issues like that
Yeah.
since the beginning of the conference.
Oh, I
Back,
see.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
That
problem.
happens.
Okay, so we're just going to finish up, I guess, now, if no one else has any questions. So thank you so much, Con, for sharing that. And I've seen your article in the book on second language writing and transitional spaces. I believe you and Ruth have something in there,
Yes.
which I've just reviewed for New York State TESOL Journal. So it was interesting to meet you in person,
Okay.
and thank you for an excellent presentation. So our time is, the next people on our list are Elia Romero and Andrea Vasquez. Are they here? Let's see, anyone here? Not here. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes, and if they're not here, then what? Another tea break.
Yeah, another tea break, another 30 minutes tea break.
We could start the other presentation early, but that does throw off the schedule if somebody's expecting to see it, and they are also not here
Yeah.
in the chat or in the Zoom room. So we'll see. So this is our first interest group conference. I'm glad you are all able to make it. I'm sorry that there are some tech issues. There's just nothing we can do about that, I'm afraid, until the world becomes totally wired, which has
Yeah,
a dual meaning, of course.
I see. Yeah.
So,
Thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, Catherine, and also Vin for organizing this event. So that's that because that's I really like the conference in the sense that we all SFL people that we kind of gather together to give more insight into SFL and other things that we are doing. Yeah.
yeah, it gives support really to find other SFLers doing similar research or different research to see what's going on out there. I know New York is not a hub of SFL, so I don't know anybody really near me doing much in the world of SFL. So I don't always do SFL research. Right now I'm doing an accent study to look at the bias that people might have towards certain foreign accents in English. And we're using French, Russian, and Spanish accents, two different Spanish accents, Salvadoran and Colombian, and one New York City accent, who actually got almost as much negativity in responses as the Russian accent, which has had the most negative responses. So right now we need more participants. One of the schools that we were hoping to study has not given permission for the study. So we have to find other people. We're not just surveying teachers, we're surveying all people who are interested. So maybe I'll send out the link to that. But we were hoping to get two different groups of teachers, and only one group has been permitted to do the survey. So we will see. It's nothing earth-shattering, but we're a bit stuck. So
So you mean that you want to get more participants in?
Yes,
Yeah.
we were looking at mostly US contexts. And we wanted school participants and non-school participants, so teachers and non-teachers. But one of the schools, in fact, has not come forward with permission. So we are kind of stuck. That was going to be a big group of about 20.
Yeah.
The other school has given permission, but of course, the teachers have to actually do it.
Yeah.
So we're waiting on them right now. And we had a pilot with 5 participants, some of whom are teachers, retired or not, but who did it individually. So we were looking to see, one of the things we were looking to see was, in a school where there are a lot of ESL students, would the teachers be more tolerant of the accents or less tolerant? But we don't have permission from that particular school that we wanted to study, so we have to make some other decisions now. So, there are, of course, New York City accent is also biased. It's not biased. People speaking it experience bias. It's a stigmatized accent. So we had a good speaker give a 2-minute story following Leboeuf. The stories were all about times of crisis or dramatic change or of some sort. So it was, our hope to go further with the study, but we're a little bit stuck right now. But I might send it out to some of you who are here in the United States. Perhaps you would like to participate.
Yeah.
So,
Getting IRB from the school and permission from the schools is a pain to me, also a pain to me, It's very hard for me, It took a lot of time to apply for IRB for school, for the county.
Yeah, we got the IRB because it doesn't involve students. It only involves teachers. So if you want to involve students, then the IRB is much harder to get. Yeah, I know. And then the schools have to consider. So it's a challenging issue that we're all struggling with, I guess, if we're doing research in schools. Even a class assignment that we used to do in one of my courses where students would tutor an ESL student for the first time. Even getting permission for them to record that now is problematic. But 15 years ago, it was not as problematic. So things have changed and become more difficult, I think, for researchers to get good samples of, things in praxis, things that are actually ongoing with teachers and students. It's been difficult.
Especially during COVID time, it's much more challenging.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
COVID has really given us some problems. So, let's see. Well, our speakers have not arrived. Let's see. Elia Romero and Andrea Vasquez are not here.